Hi, this is FilmMania. A chemical corporation has been cynically poisoning the environment and people by contaminating drinking water with chemicals for over 40 years. The picture, based on true events, begins in 1975 in West Virginia. A group of teenagers sneak into an enclosed section of a river at night to swim without clothes. They are suddenly startled by an emergency boat treating the body of water. The plot shifts to 1998. The main character, lawyer Robert Bilott, works in a prestigious law firm. He has just recently been promoted to partner. During an important meeting about Robert's career, he is called to the reception area. There waiting for him is farmer Wilbur Tennant, who is looking for a lawyer to prove that a DuPont chemical plant is polluting a local creek, causing massive cattle deaths. Robert declines, explaining that his work involves corporate cases, not individual lawsuits. However, memories of his hometown relatives keep him from forgetting the story. Unable to reach his grandmother, Robert decides to drive to West Virginia. Arriving at the places of his childhood, the hero remembers visiting the Tennant family's farm. The farmer shows him the dump that caused the conflict and the preserved organs of animals with pathologies. They then go to a creek, whose water leaves a whitish patina on the stones. Robert sees a graveyard of 190 dead cattle. Appeals to environmental organizations and plant administrators have been fruitless. At a corporate event, Bilott meets DuPont lawyer Phil Donnelly and asks about the dump. He promises to provide a report, but the documents provided do not convince the farmer. The report says that poor animal care is to blame. Robert doubts the farmer's words until he witnesses the aggressive behavior of one of the cows. The forced measure of shooting the enraged animal shocks the lawyer. Back in town, he notices a factory spewing toxic substances into the atmosphere. On his way home, he realizes that the plant has a significant impact on local infrastructure development. After reviewing the farmer's tapes, Robert comes to his boss with a proposal to file a lawsuit against DuPont. Management sees no benefit in protecting the farmer's interests, but allows Robert to pursue the case on his own. Bilott asks Donnelly to re-examine the case, hoping for a quick conclusion. A year passes, and the lawyer brings home a mountain of documents on the case, which he has to study in his spare time. The hero's attention is drawn to the 250-liter barrels noted in the case files. These containers are not suitable for standard waste, which raises suspicions. Robert assumes that DuPont is dumping toxic chemicals into the landfill, concealing information about their composition. Among the substances mentioned, the abbreviation PFOC is often found. To find out its meaning, Robert tries to contact Donnelly, but without success. Then he attends a chemical association reception with his wife. At the event, Bilott directly asks Phil for documents related to all the chemicals in the landfill, including those not considered hazardous. The request displeases the company's lawyer. This conflict leads to tension in Robert's relationship with his co-workers and wife. Despite the difficulties, the hero decides to continue the fight and engages an outside lawyer who is willing to take a risk for the sake of the truth. The lawsuit filed allows a request for a complete list of chemicals, which turns out to be overwhelming. Robert suspects that the volume of information is an attempt to hide important evidence. Meanwhile, the farmer faces negative attitudes from neighbors who don't want to ruin relations with an important enterprise. To solve the PFOC mystery, Robert contacts an independent chemist. The expert explains that this synthetic substance, known as C8, belongs to long-chain fluorocarbons. It is the year 2000. The townspeople condemn Tennant, but Robert continues to study the case. He recalls that the farmer's daughter had dental problems that may be a result of the poisoning. In a conversation with an expert, he confirms his suspicions about the chemicals in the water. The attorney continues to review the case file and finds evidence that C8 levels in the local water supply are above normal. At this time, Tennant goes to the doctor complaining of a severe cough and discovers sores on his body. Upon returning from the hospital, he notices that the house has been searched, going through belongings. The farmer suspects that this is the work of DuPont employees who are looking for dirt. Soon, a helicopter starts circling over his house, forcing him to stay outside all night with a shotgun, guarding the house. Meanwhile, Robert Bilott continues to dig deeper into the documents. Suddenly it hits him, and he goes down to the kitchen, waking his wife with his actions. In conversation, he claims that the DuPont company is poisoning everyone, including their unborn child. The wife is alarmed, but Robert explains that C8 is the same PFOC that is used to make Teflon, for example. He mentions that scientists who worked with this compound soon began to suffer from various illnesses. As a result of experiments on people, it became obvious that ingesting the substance causes serious health problems. Robert shares this information with his superiors. He claims that DuPont knew about the dangers of Teflon as early as 1962, but did not stop producing it. Chemical emissions were polluting the environment, and the waste was dumped directly into the river in barrels. When the barrels washed ashore, the corporation organized a landfill to hide the evidence. Management was aware of the possible risks of cancer and other serious illnesses associated with C8 exposure. The women were removed from the production line, but one of them managed to give birth to a child with birth defects. In a conversation with Donnelly, Robert learns that DuPont has bought neighboring parcels of land to bury toxic waste there. Tennant is determined to put those responsible in jail, but it is explained to him that the most he can expect is compensation for damages. It is almost impossible to find an independent expert willing to speak out against DuPont, since all the leading experts already work for the corporation. Robert advises the farmer to move, but the farmer replies that he and his wife have already been diagnosed with cancer. Returning home, the lawyer notices how the plant continues to threaten the lives of local residents. In the morning at the office, Robert prepares a settlement agreement between DuPont and Tennant. At the same time, the secretary sends copies of the letters to the organizations. Soon at the hearing, witnesses testify against the company. In response, DuPont sends notices to residents that only trace amounts of PFOC have been found in the water. In 2001, one of the families, the Keigers, receives such a letter and meets with Robert. A woman tells him that her first husband, a chemist at the plant, died of what is called Teflon flu. Similar deaths occur among many workers at the plant. Robert convinces the Keigers to file a class action lawsuit against DuPont, which has been polluting the water for more than 40 years. However, the legal team has only a month to prepare the lawsuit. Conflict erupts in Robert's law firm, as not everyone is ready to stand up to the huge corporation. Nevertheless, the head of the firm decides to support Robert. In 2002, the lawyer turns to Harry Ditzler, who specializes in coordinating class actions. Before the hearing, Robert meets Tennant, whose health has deteriorated markedly. He promises the farmer that justice will be served and the world will learn the truth about the corporation's crimes. DuPont representatives claim that Teflon is safe. Harry Ditzler objects, accusing the company of hiding the real toxicity data. The defense calls a witness who claims that the established safety standards exceed the recorded figures. Ditzler suspects a conspiracy and accuses the witness of bias, causing the hearing to be postponed. In 2003, information about the toxicity of Teflon becomes public through television. A fire starts near the Keigers' home. The fireman assumes that the intruders mixed up the address because the father of the head of the lawsuit with the same last name lives on the neighboring property. In 2004, the case moves slowly, but the chemicals continue to affect people. The president of DuPont admits that he signed the PFOC safety documents. Bilott has documents with studies by DuPont scientists from the 1970s that refute the company's claims about the safety of C8. He interrogates the director for 7 hours, concluding the meeting by showing a photograph of a baby with birth defects whose mother worked in the Teflon shop. After the interrogation, Robert walks to his car, trying to quiet the trembling in his hand. In the garage, he notices a suspicious figure and starts the car cautiously, fearing a setup explosion. As he drives off, the radio reports that the Environmental Protection Agency has levied a hefty fine on DuPont for using C8. In addition to the fine and the installation of treatment plants, the corporation has been ordered to provide medical follow-up for all of the plaintiffs, the entire city. Independent scientists unaffiliated with DuPont are scheduled to be brought in to analyze it. The commission must confirm the link between residents' illnesses and the C8 leak. While celebrating this conditional victory at the restaurant, the attorneys discuss the likelihood of success of the independent study. In 2005, the test collection program begins and is heavily advertised. To attract more participants, $400 is promised for blood and urine donations. All expenses are paid by DuPont. Bilott personally visits one of the laboratories to see how the work is progressing. On Christmas Day, he gets word that 69,000 people have been tested. That's a large enough sample to detect a correlation. It takes several years to analyze all the data. In 2009, 11 years after Tennant's case began, a farmer dies. Robert attends his funeral with his family. During the wake, a local man complains to the lawyer that his brother has passed away from cancer, and the lawyers have been of no help. Later, the Keeger family calls to reproach that the town has gained nothing from the fight against DuPont. Local residents are unhappy that the protracted legal battle has been fruitless. In 2010, Robert already has 3 children, but there is no progress in the lawsuit. This affects his career and fees. Robert wonders if he will be able to afford the children's Catholic school fees. His wife expresses displeasure that he has become estranged from his family and takes little interest in their lives. In 2011, he discusses with his boss the ridiculous $16 million fine imposed on DuPont. This is a paltry sum for a corporation. In addition, the Department of Justice is dropping its investigation into the cover-up of waste. Robert realizes that his only chance to get justice is to take the class action to court. However, the stress affects the lawyer's health. His nervous tic increases, which develops into an ischemic attack. In the hospital, his wife asks Robert's boss not to push her husband to continue the losing case. In 2012, returning from a church service, Robert meets Bucky, a man with one nostril and a deformed eye, a child born to a Teflon worker at a gas station. This encounter shocks him. Soon he receives a call from a representative of the scientific committee with the results of the analysis. After 7 years of research, it turns out that prolonged exposure to C8 causes serious illness. Already 3,500 people are sick, and most of the rest will become ill in the future. Armed with this information, Bilott returns home with renewed vigor. With his family, they head to a restaurant to celebrate the good news. Over dinner, however, Robert learns that DuPont has refused to acknowledge the commission's findings and intends to contest every claim, dragging the case through bureaucracy. The story moves into 2015. The first trial of 3,500 disease-related lawsuits begins in Columbus, Ohio. The plaintiffs are represented by Robert Bilott. The film ends with the information that the lawyer won one lawsuit after another, until DuPont conceded defeat and paid $670 million in damages. C8 is believed to be present in the blood of 99% of the world's population. Bilott's work inspired the world community to demand a revision of the list of toxic substances. More than 20 years after the Tennant case began, Robert Bilott continues his fight against toxic substances.